Go online to Rotary Central and the Alex Panton Foundation Facebook pages. Rotary Central and the Alex Panton Foundation. Rotary opens opportunity.
Calling all gamers.
Practice play is over.
Go! Get ready for 2 days of
non-stop competition, fun, and excitement.
NetGeeks Media is proud to present
the return of the Caribbean's #1 esports event and gaming convention,
Gamers Bay 5. Now celebrating our 5th anniversary, Gamers Bay is going down March 27th and 28th at the John Gray Gymnasium.
If you think you have what it takes, you can compete for over $10,000 in cash and prizes. Compete head-to-head in titles such as Fortnite, Super Smash Bros., Call of Duty Cold War, and FIFA 20.
See and try the latest game consoles and virtual reality headsets. Lots of free play for PC gamers, console gamers, and VR of all ages. Special guest influencers will be in attendance. For more information and to register yourself or a team, visit gamersbaycayman.com.
Proudly sponsored by NetGeeks Media, Domino's, Pepsi, Enterprise Cayman, C3 Pure Fiber, Department of Tourism, Ministry of Education, Youth Services Unit, Kimpton Seafire, Radio Cayman, Simply Computers, and Suzuki.
The Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forums continue tonight at 7:15 and will feature candidates from Northside, Miss Deborah Broderick, Joannie J. Ebanks, Justin Ebanks, and Mr. Ezard Miller. You can watch the debates on Radio Cayman's Facebook page, CIG-TV's cable channels, or on the Chamber's YouTube channel.
The following is a paid political announcement by the Honorable Speaker, Mr. Makiva Bush. The community is invited to a public meeting by Mr. Makiva Bush, candidate in the upcoming election for the electoral district of West Bay West, tonight at 7 p.m. at the Children's Park on Velma Banks Drive. Light refreshments will be served. The proceeding was a paid political announcement by Mr. Makiva Bush.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you too for sharing with us, and thanks too to the Health Services Authority for allowing us to be able to speak, to their wonderful staff and for their physicians and all the other team for sharing their knowledge with us. As education empowers, but it also encourages and nurtures. And I think speaking from an informed perspective, it allows us to say, well, you have your grandmother's recipe, for instance, and you're following it, and the food comes out good. You have an authority, and you can say, well, I put a dash of this and a sprinkle of that. It makes things better, right? Dr. Rhonda Reeves joins us. But sometimes there are things that perhaps we're uncomfortable having a discussion, certainly having a discussion in this public forum, partly because we're not quite informed and educated, but partly because we are not accustomed to seeing the issues face on. And when it's easy and glossy, it may seem to be, perhaps more appropriate. But sometimes the cold hard truth stares us in the face, and in the words of George Jones, if you don't listen to it, well, it's going to be a challenge, right? So, Dr. Reeves, from that perspective, we were looking at women in health and empowering them. We talked about women in family planning, and we understand the challenges, but there are other things. Perhaps maybe share with us further, because there are issues.
We're speaking about International Women's Day and Women's Month, but it's also Endometriosis Awareness Month.
Mm-hmm.
And as you said, if you don't know, if you don't know something, you won't know how to act on it.
Mm-hmm.
So we were talking about fertility and stuff before endometriosis comes up.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times when you hear that, persons will be like, what is it? I know that just like with the International Women's Day,
mm-hmm.
when you have Endometriosis Awareness Month, you do have more persons coming in and be like, I think I have this.
Mm-hmm.
Can you check, or do you think? And so I guess the biggest question would be, what is endometriosis?
Mm-hmm.
And it really is, and I usually use diagrams when I'm explaining, but the lining of your uterus or your womb is called your endometrium. And it's functional.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part that thickens every month in preparation for a pregnancy, If there is no pregnancy, it's what you shed as your menses every month cyclically. So it has a function. If you do get pregnant, it's where the baby would implant into, and it nurtures the baby until the placenta is formed. So that's what it is.
And this is only in women, right?
Yes, it's only in women.
I just tell
just
people,
to make sure.
Yeah.
Yes, it's only in women.
Okay.
So it's literally the lining or the endometrium. It grows, it sheds, it grows, it sheds in a cyclical pattern. So when you have endometriosis, that endometrial tissue or that endometrium is found in an area where it shouldn't be. So it's found outside of the uterus. And it can be as localized as in the muscle wall of the uterus instead of in the lining, or outside of it, meaning in your belly or in your abdomen, on your ovary, on your bladder. And that's pretty much what it is in a nutshell.
So, understand that's what it is. How do you know? I mean, the woman, as your example, the lady comes in and says, I think I may have this. Obviously, there's a element of concern, but how do you know?
So the first thing you'll notice is that you have pain. So it's not unusual to call it period cramps. You have menstrual cramps, so you know that when you're seeing your period, you would have pain. But these women tend to have pain day in, day out, and the pain grades. So like I said, the endometrium or the endometrial tissue will grow in the in between your cycle. So as it's there and it's in a place it shouldn't be and it's growing, you get this kind of, it's painful.
That pain could be almost anywhere.
So it's an inflammatory response inside of your body. So you'll have that pain. And most of the times it's in your abdomen or your pelvis, because that's where your uterus is. They do have rare occasions where it's outside of that entire cavity, in your lungs, in your brain. But that's very rare, but it does happen. So you'll find that persons will generally come in and be like, no, this is not period pain. I constantly have pain. And when I do see my period, then it gets exponential, because then you would have the lining doing what it should do. It's bleeding. So you're bleeding from your uterus, and wherever else that tissue is deposited, it's there bleeding as well. So you'll have pain locally and wherever it is. So that's one of the most basic things that you can use to check it.
Okay.
So you kind of just have the period pain all month through, all the time.
Okay. Very uncomfortable, affecting her
Yes,
quality of life.
uncomfortable.
Is it life-threatening? Or is that...
So there are common areas where you would have endometriotic deposits. So you can have it in your ovary, in your tubes, on your bladder, in that pelvic area. And that is not life-threatening. But there have been rare occurrences where you have it in your lungs. And if you can think about it, if you're bleeding in your lungs every month, then yes, that can be life-threatening, or in your brain. And then at that time, it can be life-threatening, yes.
And understanding that would be the answer. I mean, you alluded to it earlier. I asked that because I think men and women would just consider that, that's just the luck of the draw, that's normal for them, and they just grin and bear it because they have a high pain tolerance.
That's so true. A lot of women just think that, I'm supposed to have pain with my periods, and it's probably just, it's hanging around, and that's why a lot of women never bring up that discussion. Yeah. So it's very unusual what people think is the norm. And like you said, they're like, like you said, it's a cross you have to bear. It's Eve's curse.
You said it.
It's Eve's curse. So they'll tell you like, and then when you take your history and you're like, you never thought that was unusual before, and they're like, no. So it's a batch of awareness on what persons think would be normal.
Okay, so this pain, this discomfort, and once the woman is of, I'll use the term childbearing age or whatever. So once the onset of her menses,
right,
it can start from then.
It starts from then, but as you can imagine, with time it gets worse,
right?
Because every time you have your menses and it's on an outside area, it's got scarring and it gets more scarred. So you'd find that the person be like, I usually have periods, but painful periods, but no, it's all the time and it's more painful, and with time it does worsen. Yes. Okay,
so for the lady who, and we have some. I mean, I'm sure there are the same in every society, but I know, because this is where I live and work, incredibly strong women. I mean, I don't want to give examples because they're probably embarrassing, but they're amazingly resilient. They're strong in every sense of the word, right? Because they're women. That's why they have babies. Men had babies, the world wouldn't.
It wouldn't be populated.
Bill Gates and the rest of his clan wouldn't have to worry about killing people, right? But anyway, story is then, when the woman comes into her physician, she's very diligent. She comes every time she's supposed to come, but she probably doesn't reference that. So you said, hey, just give her history. Tell the physician everything. Leave no stone unturned, because you're talking to a competent, confidential person.
Right.
But then how do we extract that from? How do we get them to encourage them to share that? And then what can we do to look to make sure that we don't overlook anything?
Well, they might come in with that complaint, but specialized, us being women's health, we're gynecologists. We have our checklist of things we go through just in case this person might have missed it. So it's just a matter of asking you questions. So how are your periods? Do they come every month? And you pick up a lot just by asking that. So that's one way. And sometimes they do come and ask.
Okay.
Or you might see them and might come into emergency doubled over in pain. And your colleague in emergency would call you and be like, this lady comes in every month. Severe pain. Something's not right. So sometimes they bring it up, sometimes it's picked up, and you do figure it out if they don't off the ball say it.
Yeah. And I thank you for that too. And I guess as I was asking, I was thinking of two things. One, the need for us, but the women in particular, to be as exhaustive as possible in our discussion and to ensure that we understand the importance of sharing. But I also think of, again, it's usually our parents, right? We know the Iron Men and wooden ships, but we also know the resolve in our mothers or women. They'll come in and you take them to the physician because they're complaining about something or they may have gone, and yet they play, they're not nothing. They play it down, right? This is where the competence and the level of compassion that you all have can get more information.
Yeah.
All right. It's a start.
It's a start.
But yet then, if I may then ask, be mindful. Share with us any other things before maybe I ask the final questions, because we want the women to appreciate that they don't have to, suffer in silence. They don't have to be ashamed or feel selfish in ensuring that they take care of them.
Yep.
But they do. They just ignore it.
Right. So that's the whole point of the Endometriosis Awareness Month, to let you be aware that it's not your cross to bear. It may be something wrong, and if it's concerning you, have the discussion. Okay.
For our women in our society, then they listen now. They want to take action just to get a checkup. Maybe they've been ignoring this thing. Maybe it's prayerfully it's nothing, but don't ignore it. How did they go about accessing? Is it the Women's Health Center?
Women's Health Services. Yes, we do obstetrics, so we take care of you from pregnancy to delivery to after. And after, which is where you'd have your well woman's visit. So you're just coming annually for your pap smear. You'd come in for other things if you have menstrual complaints. Pretty much everything regarding women's health. No, because of that, we're kind of a medical and a surgical subspecialty, because we do surgeries. We have fibroids, we're treating ovarian tumors, endometriosis that we need to do surgical, but there's also medical, because we'll treat high blood pressure in pregnancy or diabetes in pregnancy, so we have that. So you tend to just be like, we're the whole holistic female doctor. So you'll do find that, your diligent patients will come in and they'll tell you everything, and you're like, okay, so that's not where we would manage, but we can also refer. So we can pick things up and refer to the relevant specialty. And we're at Georgetown Hospital, Women's Health Department. You can come in, make an appointment, be it just for a well woman checkup or for something particular. And we do actually extend out into the districts. So once a week, I go to Boddentown. So if you're in the eastern districts, you have to drive all the way to Georgetown. We do have that where we go out into the community, and then there's another physician who goes out into West Bay. So we cover the two ends. So you go out into West Bay, and you can, if you're in that region and you can't get into Georgetown, you can also go to your district health center, find the days, and make an appointment to be seen. All right. But we don't do obstetrics in the districts. Obstetrics, if you're pregnant, you have to come into Georgetown.
Makes sense.
Because of the support that we need.
Yeah, right. It makes sense. And honestly, because of the traffic, things can be daunting, but your health is worth it. So make the drive. Hey, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Always a pleasure. I hope you and felt as comfortable as we tried to make you. It's always a pleasure. All right. Well, who knows, where this will lead us. And I hope our people will feel the importance of looking after health. Have a wonderful, safe, productive, and enjoyable rest of your week.
Thank you. You too.
All right. All right, to our listeners, tomorrow is Wednesday. I know it's my Monday, but it's your Wednesday tomorrow, so it's not Tuesday for me. It's today. As we invite you to be a part of the discussion, we're going to start on the morning show For the Record and come back for Talk Today right after the midday news and midday meditation. To my caller who talks about approaching the precipice, but we don't jump, unless we jump in knowingly. Let's make the jump together. Until tomorrow, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands.
Voice of the Cayman Islands, Radio Cayman.
Shining down from above.
We love our listeners.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman